Welcome to the 2020 Uprise mock off-season. This mock off-season will pit me, Eric Brandt, and 28 of you guys against each other in a pure, realistic simulation. In this mock off-season, all 30 NBA teams will be controlled by one of us as we make moves with each other, run through the 2020 NBA draft, and at some point, go through the free agent market. I'll be having content that covers moves that each participant makes. These videos will cover a lot of the trades before the draft, which are inevitable and will happen. They'll cover the draft itself, and then they'll cover free agency. And as a lot of you know, me and Eric are back to doing Monday, Friday podcasts, and during these podcasts, we'll actually devote a good portion of them to covering and analyzing moves that each participant makes. We'll be giving props to some people, and we'll be criticizing others. We're going to analyze things like it's the actual NBA. Granted, we have no actual NBA right now, so I figured this was a good substitute. So for participants, we will be picking teams Monday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That'll be live on stream, and we really hope you can make it. If you cannot make that stream to pick your team, then make sure to message me or Eric on Discord, and we'll get into how exactly you do that in just a moment. Now, if you're not one of our 30 participants which have already been chosen, then there still might be a chance for you to get in on this. If we have participants that aren't actively running their team and keeping up with things, then we may choose to replace them with somebody who really wants to be a part of this and someone who will actually be active. And what I mean by active is you should be logging on almost every day. If you can't log on for a day or two, that's completely fine. It's not something strict, and it's not something you should have to worry about. But this thing will only work if people are actively participating, actively responding to trade inquiries. Even if you're not interested in something somebody's trying to negotiate, at least respond to them and let them know that you're not interested. This thing only works if everybody's running their team and every team is open for business. So if you don't reply for 3 or 4 days and I don't see you posting in Discord, I'll probably end up messaging you, asking you if you're still active, asking you what's up. If you don't respond for 5-6 days, then there's people out there that really want to be a part of this thing that would gladly run a team more actively than that. Now, hopefully that's not a problem. I do expect everybody to be active. If you really want to be a part of this thing, then you'll be active enough. You shouldn't worry about not being active enough. If you, for whatever reason, can't be on your phone or be on Discord for like 3-4 days, just message me or Eric and let us know, and we'll let everybody else know that you're not going to be on Discord for 3 or 4 days and you can still have your team. Just give us a heads up. We just want to make sure that everybody's active because that's the only way that this will really work, and this will really be a lot of fun for everybody involved. So if you're interested in being listed as an alternate, let me know. There was some people that wanted to participate in this that didn't end up getting in. I actually did not expect there to be 30 people, but we had more than that. I had to leave some of you guys out. I'm sorry that you ended up on the outside looking in, but you could still possibly end up being a part of this. If not, you can follow along with the content that I'll be producing. So if you want to be listed as an alternate, let me know down in the comment section below. So transitioning to talking about Discord. This whole mock offseason will be ran through Discord. Right now we have 3 mock offseason related threads that only participants in the mock offseason can see. This is the general discussion for the mock, the trade block, and completed trades. The mock general discussion thread is just anything regarding the mock offseason. It's pretty general. The trade block is where you can go and say what you're looking for on the trade market. You can also say what players or picks you have available and what you're looking for. However, it might be best to negotiate your trades privately so people don't know what you're up to. It's up to you if you want to use that trade block thread. And then the completed trades thread will be ran by me and Eric. We are the only ones that can post in this thread, and all this thread will consist of is official trades that have gone through. So that covers the setup of Discord. Now let's talk about how you negotiate and submit a trade. So first off, if you click on any of these mock threads, you'll notice that on the right you'll have people in blue or me and Eric, which are in yellow. We're all participating in this mock offseason. Now everybody that's participating in this mock offseason will have a team added to their username in the Blazers Uprise server. So for example, let's say Ads ends up with the Sacramento Kings. I will change his nickname to Ads and then in parentheses Kings. I'll save it as that, and this will only show up in this server. If you go to any other Discord server, your name will be what you had it before. However, in Blazers Uprise, you'll show up as your username and then the team you're controlling. So if you want to negotiate a trade with a certain team, all you have to do is go to the right side of the screen, scroll, and then find the team that you want to trade with. So to negotiate trades, it should be easy to find the team that you want to negotiate with. So for example, let's say Ben C. Darling is the Phoenix Suns, and I'm interested in Kelly Oubre, and I'm the Portland Trail Blazers. To message Ben C. Darling, all I'd have to do is right click on his name and hit message. Then I'm in a private message with the Phoenix Suns, and then I'd simply state my intentions of wanting to trade for Kelly Oubre. Then I'd simply have to send this message, and then me and Ben can start negotiating a trade. So let's say me and Ben came to an agreement on a trade and we wanted to make it official. I'd come up with an offer and he said that he accepted it. To submit a trade, what you need to do is message me or Eric. You'd simply go to one of our names, hit message, and submit a trade. So to submit a trade, let's say I agreed with Ben on Trevor Ariza and a first round pick for Kelly Oubre. I would message Eric and submit the trade in this format. That's clear, that's concise, and Eric can check and make sure the trade works under the CBA. We will be following CBA rules, so that is something you need to keep in mind when making a trade. You can use resources like the ESPN NBA Trade Machine or another similar website to try and make sure trades work under the salary cap, but we're going to be checking these ourselves with our vast CBA knowledge, and we're going to be making sure these types of things work. So this is how you'd submit the trade. Now, I forgot to do one thing here. You want to include the pick protections with the pick. So say this is lottery protected, I'd say this pick is lottery protected. But the thing is, you have to explain what happens if this pick ends up in the lottery. So it's lottery protected, let's say for the next 2 years. If the pick hasn't been traded by that point, it converts into a 2024 Portland second round pick. So I'd say something like this. If you want help with structuring your pick protections, you can ask me or Eric for that advice. But you do need to agree with the person you're trading with on your pick protections if you do end up trading a future first round pick. So now let's say I submitted this trade to Eric. Eric would then take this trade and message Ben C. Darling and make sure that he also agrees with this. So one person will submit the trade to me or Eric, and then we'll message the other participant in that trade and make sure they agree. If they end up agreeing and the trade works in the CBA, then we'll post the trade here. Once you message me or Eric with a trade, you've agreed to that trade. There is no going back on that trade. So let's say I submitted that trade to Eric. I've agreed to that trade at that point. If he messages Ben C. Darling and Ben C. Darling declines for whatever reason, then obviously that trade isn't going to go through. But when you're in negotiations with someone, you guys should have already verbally agreed to a trade. So we shouldn't end up in a situation where I'm having trades submitted to me and then I check with the other people making that trade and they're declining, because you should agree on a trade before you submit it to me or Eric. Now, me and Eric will be giving you guys spreadsheets that will update for you after you make moves. It'll have all your salary information, it'll have all the players on your roster, and say I made that trade with Trevor Ariza and a first round pick for Kelly Oubre, my Portland Trail Blazers spreadsheet would get updated with Kelly Oubre on the roster in place of Trevor Ariza. So that's how you can keep track of what picks you have and what players you have. We will release more information on the spreadsheets here in the next day, so stay tuned on Discord, because that is where we'll post the link where you can keep track of your spreadsheet. So anyway, the final part of this is the most important CBA rules you guys should know when trying to make trades. The first is draft picks. There's something called the stipend rule where you can't have 2 years in a row in the future without a single first round pick. So let's say I don't have anybody else's future first round picks. Let's say I have all of mine, 2020 through 2026. Let's say I trade my 2021 first round pick and it's unprotected. I therefore cannot trade my 2022 first round pick, since that would be a second year in a row that I wouldn't have a pick. I'd have to trade my 2023 first round pick or later. Now say I put protections on that 2021 first round pick where I might end up keeping it if it's in the lottery because it's lottery protected, but then in that case I would end up trading my 2022 first round pick. Then I wouldn't be able to trade my 2023 because I'd have the chance of trading my 2022 first round pick. So basically you cannot have any scenario where it might end up being that you would have back-to-back years without a first round pick. If you have questions on whether certain trades work or not based on your picks, feel free to hit up me or Eric. We will answer any of your questions regarding the CBA. And honestly, a positive part of this is you guys might be able to learn aspects of the CBA that teams have to follow when making trades. The second part is matching salary. This part you can mostly check with the NBA trade machine, but it's not exactly perfect, and you can check whether salary matches yourself. But essentially, you have to trade out similar amounts of salary as to what you're bringing back. If you're a team that's in the luxury tax, then you can only bring back 125% of what you're trading out. So for example, if I trade out $20 million, I can only bring back about $25 million. Any more than that, the salary won't work. There is a little different rules for teams that aren't in the tax in terms of matching salary, and we will release a guide to determining if your trade matches salary. But if you want to take the easy route, you can just check through the NBA trade machine, or you can ask me or Eric. I would prefer me and Eric don't have a million questions about whether stuff matches, whether stuff works. So please try and figure out if your salary matches. You might have to do a little bit of math, but there are ways that you guys can easily check to make sure that salary matches. We don't want this to be a hassle. We want this to be fun, but we will be observing CBA rules. The third CBA rule to know is trade exceptions. Trade exceptions will be usable for your teams. Now, what a trade exception is a tool where you can take in salary in a trade and not have it count as salary coming in. So say I'm trading out $20 million, bringing back that $25 million so that matches, but then I also want to bring back an additional player making $9 million. If I have a trade exception worth $10 million, I can absorb that player's salary with that trade exception and it doesn't count on top of the $25 million coming in. A trade exception allows you to basically cancel out salary that's less than that trade exception. So if I have a $10 million traded player exception, I can bring in up to $10 million of salary and have it cancel out. You can also use it among multiple players. So if I have a $10 million traded player exception, I could bring in 2 players making $5 million and have their salary not count as incoming salary for the trade. So say I don't want to trade out anybody, I have that $10 million traded player exception, I could trade for somebody making $10 million without having to trade anything out. Now, a lot of teams don't have any traded player exceptions, or they're very, very small, so they're pretty much useless. So not a lot of you guys are going to have to worry about these things. You can also choose not to use them, but if you want to try and give yourself a little bit of an advantage and you have a team that has a traded player exception, you can use them. The only thing is, the ESPN NBA trade machine has traded player exceptions show up for certain teams. However, they don't work if you try and use them in the trade machine. If you have any questions regarding anything that I've covered so far, feel free to ask me or Eric. The final CBA rule to keep track of is pretty simple. If a player is going to be a free agent in this offseason, or they have a player option for next year, they are not able to be traded. There are other CBA rules that kind of matter when it comes to making trades, but they aren't relevant enough to cover here. And I'll say you submit a trade that doesn't work under a CBA rule that I haven't covered yet. Me and Eric will check that, and we'll let you know why that trade doesn't work and what the rule is via messaging. But nothing is relevant enough to cover here, so the 3 CBA rules that I think you should know in recap is you can't have back-to-back years without a first-round pick. You have to match salary in trades, and you can use traded player exceptions. Me and Eric will have additional CBA rules that you should keep in mind that we'll type up and we'll post in Discord. So anyway, as far as how the draft will work and free agency will work, we'll cover that in the future. Don't really worry about that too much yet. The draft will be in like the next week or 2. We want to have a little time to make trades before the draft. And then free agency will be in the far future. We're still kind of figuring out how exactly that'll work. So anyway, that wraps up this mock off-season introduction. I hope you guys have a lot of fun with this. I'm going to have a lot of fun participating in this as well as covering this. So I'm really looking forward to this thing. So anyway, I'll catch you guys later. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.